Welcome back to the Comic Lyra podcast, the podcast where we comically
and literally...
He was checking his phone, everyone. He wasn't ready.
And literally...
review comics. I'm Ryan, and this is my co-host Jamie, and for new listeners, we just said the thing we do. So I keep saying the new listeners thing, and the reason...
Because there are eventually some new listeners.
There's a surprising amount of new listeners. There was an even more surprising bump in the Daredevil Punisher episode.
Nice.
And it was doing much bigger numbers than the rest of the episodes, to the point where I was like, oh my god, we need to do more Daredevil stuff, great. More Punisher stuff, great. More Garth Ennis stuff, oh no, we're going to have to do Crossed, which is the really bad one.
We're running out of Garth Ennis content, that's the problem.
Oh, that's the problem. We've only scratched the surface.
Oh,
and that's not a good thing. But I especially saw the increase in new listeners to that episode. I was like, I wonder what the retention's like on that. And it's like... I was like, so I'm trying to be like, new listeners, we are going to review comics. Like, if you clicked on the comic, this is what we're about to do.
Yeah, right. Comic, right. Should we just crack on then? I was going to do a whole rambling bit about my kid and like a bunch of other stuff, but comic book content straight in. Let's go.
I was going to talk about all the Nightwing thirst traps that I'm getting recommended on Instagram now because I can't send them to Jamie to view because you're not on Instagram.
I know, right? That's not the reason you're getting those. You're getting those because you like them.
I did one, and I was like, I'm going to have to save the link and show you in person, like showing your nan a meme. And now my algorithm is just full with it. So
you know I'm like logged into our TikTok on the smartphone that I have for home use, right?
Yeah, I know.
So you could just...
Yeah, but then I have to find it on TikTok and this whole thing. Anyway, we're being distracted again.
Right, no, sorry. Comic book content. Today, we are talking about... something.
We're doing the Iron Man Extremis story, which I believe is from 2005.
It is.
And the reason we're doing it, on the one hand, you have mentioned that we've not done any proper Iron Man comics, even though we talk about them a lot. So this is the first time we're doing a proper dedicated Iron Man comic.
It's my first time ever reading an Iron Man comic.
Exactly.
I kind of feel like some of the Ultimate stuff is quite Iron Man themed, but that's not like proper Iron Man.
I'd say more Avenger themed, which includes Iron Man, obviously. But the other reason is, not only is it one of the best ones, but we're also going to be judging it as how good of a comic for new Iron Man fans to get involved in, basically.
Should I do the bit now?
Do the bit.
So I was at a baby group the other day, and I was talking to another dad, because I'm trying to make dad friends.
He thinks he's too good for us, everyone.
Well, you just don't want to hear about like baby vomit and shit.
Actually, no,
man.
You're right. I appreciate that thought, to be fair.
This isn't because I don't want to hang out with my homies. It's because I can't talk to my homies about like fucking baby weaning and shit, you know?
I mean, you can, but you'll see the light fade from my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I saw this dad from across the room. Our eyes met.
It was like a romance.
It was, yeah. I've seen him in a smoky room. It wasn't smoky.
You come here often. That was the smoke. That was talcum powder.
But he had a Flash tattoo, right? So I walked over and said, "Oh, I think Barry Allen's a twat."
Which when you know more in the weeds, you're like, which Flash are you a fan of?
Well, this is the thing.
That's going to decide whether I can like you or not.
And it turns out the Flash he's a fan of is the film and TV one, and so he's never read a comic book.
All right.
So he is a big enough fan of the Flash.
And if you're listening, welcome new listener.
Welcome new listener. He's a big enough fan of the Flash that he had a tattoo of him, and he'd never read a fucking comic book. Because I was like, oh, I don't like Barry Allen because of Flashpoint. And then his eyes went blank. And I was like, do you not know what Flashpoint is?
He should know what it is because it was the third series of the Flash TV show.
And that's what I then told him. And he went, oh. And I was like, so wait, you like... And I literally had to go, you like the Flash enough that you have a tattoo of him and you've never read a comic book? And he was like, yes. And I was like, that's interesting. His favourite Flash, by the way, Jay Garrick.
Oh, yeah, that's Steel Hat one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know Jay Garrick. I think we've
well,
mentioned.
No, I know Jay Garrick.
Yeah. It's weird that it's his favourite.
But it's weird that a guy who's literally never read a comic book has the favourite Flash of Jay Garrick. By the way, he had Barry fucking Allen tattooed on his arm. I didn't have the heart to tell him that the Flash should have tattooed. He did, yeah. His favourite Flash was Jay Garrick, but he had Barry Allen tattooed on his arm in a wonky Flash logo. Anyway.
Is this like the comic book fan equivalent of like, I got this Chinese tattoo, it means courage, like actually means prawn fried rice?
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, I've got this Jay Garrick tattoo, and you go, actually, that translates to Barry Allen. But so I decided that I thought something that would be really interesting for us is that because there must be other people like him, right? There has to be other people like him.
Oh, for sure. It's a common thing I see online. People go into like comic book forums or Reddits or whatever, and they're like, I want to get into this character. Where do I start?
So we're going to do a public service now where every once in a while we're going to pick up a comic that is regarded as being, or that somebody has told us is, you know, we think about comics, we're in the weeds.
Put it this way, if you're a listener, you see our episodes, or just maybe you see the episode titles and you decide whether to listen to this one or not. If it's a good one, we'll put that in the title. We'll say, or question mark, like for, you know, bait people in kind of thing. But it'll be like, this episode title, you see it now, it's probably some variation of like, is this the best entry point for new comic readers? Or something like that.
Yeah. So this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to either spend some time doing the research and finding out what we think the best entry point is, or just having a look at the ones that other people say are the best entry points and being like, do we actually think this is a good first whatever comic?
Yeah.
So we are looking at...
I think once we've done a few more Batman episodes, we could do like a definitive, like, what is the best entry point for Batman?
Ryan and I have conflicting opinions, but we both have an opinion on what we think the best first Batman is, and we'll talk about that another day.
Yeah.
Because today, we're talking about a comic book that is widely regarded to be the best entry point to Iron Man. Yeah. Now, I can both see why it is, I can see why this is a really great entry point to Iron Man comics for comic book readers that have never read an Iron Man. As an entry point to comics, this is horrible.
I think, it's a difficult one.
But my point is, this isn't a good first comic. It's a good first Iron Man comic if you're already reading other stuff.
Yeah, I agree to that. I think, if someone just like, what's a good comic? This wouldn't be in my top 50 responses. But if someone said, what's a great Iron Man comic? It's like, well, of the few that I've read, like, this is your first. I've read a few since 2016, but most of the good ones come from before then, apparently.
No, I fully understand why people say this is the best entry point to Iron Man. I have opinions. I have really strong opinions up front. But we'll do credits and then we'll go in with initial thoughts, right?
Well, the one thing I was going to say beforehand, which I think you'll agree is important, is what's especially good about this comic as someone who wants to get into Iron Man is chances are, if someone who wants to get into Iron Man and hasn't read any comics and wants to start somewhere, they probably have become a fan because of the MCU.
Yeah,
like,
they've probably seen the film, yeah.
So what's interesting about this is this specific comic, and even more specifically, like this run, and more specifically this story for Iron Man 3, was the influence for MCU Tony Stark.
Yeah, 100%.
So it bears repeat. It bears mentioning that this is a good one. Like, well, you like that one. This is what it was based off.
What I think is really interesting here is that they use this across all of those original Iron Man films are all riffing off this 6-issue run. It's insane.
Well, so Iron Man 3 is meant to be the Extremis story, which this is. But in terms of like the armor and what Tony Stark was like at the time, like I think from Iron Man 1 and 2 and the Avengers, I think.
But there's some specific points that I think, again, let's do the credits, and then we do our general thoughts, and then we can actually get into it and talk about it.
Yeah, so
I will happily just jump in and start chatting about it, but I know you like structure.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth mentioning that
I'm using Ryan's own pathological need for structure against him.
Yeah, you realise I'm not going against structure. I'm trying to like wedge in a bit in the proceedings. But the credits are, this was written by one Warren Ellis, who I was going to mention more about and some of the other stuff they've done. But then I looked up their Wikipedia, and one of the entries, the subheadings of people's Wikipedias, one of them is sexual coercion allegations. So I was like, let's not get into all that then.
Why do I recognize Warren Ellis's name?
He's a writer as well of proper books, so maybe from there.
Right, okay.
But it was also, and I think you'll appreciate this, the art was by one Adi Granov, if I've pronounced that correctly.
Adi Granov, yeah.
And so, but first, we're saluting if you can't tell.
They can't tell.
General thoughts?
General thoughts. Okay. Overall, I quite liked this comic book.
I did as well. It's easily the best Iron Man comic I've ever read. Of the few that I have read.
It's absolutely the best Iron Man comic I've ever read. It's also the only Iron Man comic I've ever read.
That's the, the guy who's only ever seen Boss Baby 2 watching The Godfather, like, get strong Boss Baby 2 vibes from that.
I liked it. Again, I think this was a really great entry point into Iron Man for me, because
because you are literally the guy who's a fan from the MCU.
I like the Iron Man films. I do. They're weirdly quite high up there in my MCU rankings.
Yeah, it feels like this character starting from the same status quo as you would say in like, obviously after Iron Man 2, because it's after Iron Man 1, because it's his origin story, but like 2 and 3, that status quo is where we start with this character.
Yeah, it's Iron Man at the end of Iron Man 1. Iron Man, I suppose. It's not Iron Man 1.
In retrospect, like World War 1 is now World War 1.
Yeah, instead of... To be honest with you, I think we've done World War 1 dirty, because they called it the Great War before that. That's much better.
If you ask me, all the death and destruction, I don't think it was so great. Put my head above the parapet with a brave take.
Great is one of the words in the English language whose meaning has changed in the 20th century.
Oh yeah, there are loads of words like that.
Yes.
Like one of my favorites is awesome. Like we were just like, oh, that's awesome. It's like awesome is literally meant to be
It filled me with awe.
You're in awe that like you're speechless and and nowadays we're just like, oh, I got an extra nugget in my box. Like, that's awesome.
It's the little win. It's the little dopamine hits.
Yeah.
But yeah, so generally speaking, I like this comic. The dialogue the dialogue I felt was a little bit lacking. But the overall story, I think, was paced really well, moved along really well. The artwork, I'll get onto it when we do the arting. I didn't like it, but I have a lot to say about it, and I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think I'm very similar boat with you. I would, as a general, without getting the artwork, which we will do in probably seconds, but I saw the artwork and I was like, I'm not a huge fan of this style, but then I really like the story, and then you might not enjoy this. As I enjoyed the story more, I was like, actually, I like the artwork now.
Right, okay.
Not again.
But
like,
that happens.
Yeah.
That totally happens.
We have that. We both have had that where some aspect makes you go sour on the rest of the comic. Yeah. Whereas for me, my enjoyment of the story and the writing actually warmed me to the art style.
No, 100%. It has gone both ways for both of us at different points.
Yeah.
And I think my distaste for the artwork, I didn't like it, but I'm not going to spend the better part of a nice afternoon talking about all the reasons I didn't like it, because sometimes I feel really vitriolic about the bad artwork. Here, I'm just really interested to get into the nitty-gritty of it.
Yeah.
And should we start with the arting?
Yeah, let's get in the art. The word they always say is, we do recommend this. If it wasn't clear, we do recommend this as an entry point for new comic readers.
Yes.
So if you've listened to this part, like, is it a good one? Yes. If you want to read some Iron Man, this is a great place to start.
So this has a really, really distinct style. So distinct, in fact, that it gave me Uncanny Valley vibes. It gave me the Uncanny Valley feeling.
It's too realistic. It has a weird kind of sheen over the top of it.
So I reached out to a friend who is a digital artist with a animation degree.
Wow, calling in the big guns.
Yeah, I reached out to a consultant.
Yes,
I reached out to an irregular.
Like, for anyone who doesn't know, Elementary, the Sherlock series, which I recommended to Jamie, and one of the purest delights in life is when you recommend something to someone. Because most of the time, I think everyone's the same. We don't get around to trying people's recommendations. You actually did. And you then messaged me at one point like, dude, this show is amazing. And I was like, oh, that feeling.
And then that show was the backdrop to me and my partner's evenings after the baby had gone to bed for maybe the first 2 months of his life.
Yeah. Great binge show. Like a high quality binge show and a good TV show in itself.
She likes a procedural. I don't. We are now having a conversation about what procedural we're going to watch next.
I've got some recommendations, but we'll
anyway,
save that for the other podcast.
I reached out to a friend of mine who's a very good... We might cut all of the Elementary stuff out.
I don't know.
There's new listeners. There's new listeners that are dropping like flies.
And they'll be like, wow, comic book review and TV recommendations? What a podcast. 5 stars.
TV recommendations from 14 years ago. That is some stale ass shit.
And if that impression I did does sound like you, listener, leave 5 stars.
Yeah. Anyway, he says what he thinks this is 3D models put over what he called a digital light room or a light stage. So you'll create a digital environment, like a digital space, and then you pop the 3D models into that, and that is essentially a composite image of that. That's what he thinks this is.
Yeah.
Now, I 100% am not a digital artist, but that's what he thought he was looking at. And again, he was like, I did some research for you and I can't really find any specifics on this guy's art style. This is that guy's art style. This is absolutely how that guy made things. I think it's ugly. I think it's really uckers, but old. Like this is essentially computer generated images from about 20 odd years ago. And there's a profound difference between a computer generated image and a digital painting. That's the thing. My friend didn't think this was a digital painting. He thought these were computer generated images. And that's where that glossiness and that sheen comes from. And it's also, I think, the big thing for me that really set me off was the disconnect between the figures and the background. If you look, the figures don't really look like they're in the background. They look like they're kind of set in front of it by a computer, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of depth in there, which...
Well, no, there's not a lot of depth. What it looks like is a 2D paper cutout of a 3D image being stuck in front of another 2D paper cutout, right? With a bit of space in between, you've taken a photograph of it. That's what it looks like to me.
Right.
I wonder if the issue here is that we are looking at computer-generated graphics from 20 years ago.
I mean, maybe, because like I got that impression, I got the exact same impression as well, like it felt like computer-made
Because I have a car from the same year as this, right? And it's already been on fire once, and the CD player doesn't work anymore. Because that is how things from 2005 have aged at this point.
Yeah.
Like technology, like anything that's made at the cutting edge of a certain type of technology isn't going to age well. Think back to the computer. What, we were in primary school when this was made? Think back to the computers.
No, 2005?
We were in secondary school, weren't we?
Just started, I think.
Yeah, so we were in our first few years of secondary school. We were using like Windows 2000 computers at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe Windows XP was out.
Here's the thing, because I had the exact same thoughts of thinking it was like computer-generated art, like, or computer-assisted art, whatever you want to call it, right? One, I did look up a little bit because I thought this was just like a style. Because I remembered, this is a very weird niche thing, but I remember like web comics from like the 2000s that had this look. And even back then I had the same kind of like, I don't like this. Like it is Uncanny Valley. Like it's trying too hard to be a photo almost. Like that kind of feeling. But so I looked into a little bit, and apparently it is the style of the artist Adi Granov, right?
Yeah.
And apparently, according to some posts and other people discussing his work, there are, what they claim is that it is drawn. I don't know if it's specifically with or without computer, but not to the level of computer use that I thought it was.
Yeah.
But apparently the look is from drawing and a lot of like airbrushing over the top and that kind of stuff. Apparently that's why it has that kind of sheen across it, where everything is like a little shiny. And if it's not shiny, it's intentionally like dark, you know? So I don't know what the process is. Like I got a credit, like obviously your expert is probably the most knowledgeable one, but even by the sounds of it, how you were talking about it, even they were kind of like, I think it's this.
100%. They were like, I can't say for sure. And he was like, it's almost impossible to reverse engineer somebody else's process just by looking at the end result.
Yeah.
But he was like, what I'm seeing is this. This is what I'm seeing.
I'm seeing a comment right now talking about this where they say, someone says, yeah, I think you'd call this stylized hyperrealism, and their source, me. So,
yeah, I mean,
that is
again,
a good description.
I think that Reddit post is really going down the wrong avenue because they're trying to find a name for the style. I was interested in what the process had been and what the end result is, which is that but I can also see why if you...
I mean, even here as well, someone's claiming like, oh yeah, they do this with charcoal, pencils and paints and acrylic pens. And then the response immediately after that is, I had no idea you could do that with pens. I'm not an artist, but I'd love to see the process. And I think that like everyone has that kind of like, can you do this with pencils?
100%. I don't think you can do that. It's too glossy. It's and one of the things that my friend commented on was the sheen that it had.
Yeah.
He was like, you don't get that sheen from drawing materials. Like, you know, there is something inherently very digital happening here.
Yeah.
I find it off-putting, but much
Same.
like the Superman stuff we were looking at by the Ice Cream Man people.
Yeah.
If you like it, right? And like, I can see why somebody would really like this, and I can see why somebody would find this really compelling. I find it fascinating, and that's good enough for me. Like, I found it genuinely interesting, and
better than house style stuff.
Yeah, fucking A. And I don't think it's badly executed either.
Yeah, this was my thing. It was like, it's hard to criticize it, recognizing that I'm starting off from the point of, I'm not a fan of this style.
Yes.
So you then can't be like, oh, they did this good or this bad, because like you're already starting off from like, I don't like this like medium, like initially. So what's it going to be worth to be like, to criticize it after the fact?
Because I showed it to my partner, and bear in mind, she was like, we'd just done bath time, we were at the end of our tether, we were trying to get a 4-month-old baby to sleep.
Shoving a comic in her face, like, what do you think of this art?
But yeah, I literally went, what do you think of this? And she sort of looked at it and went, why does it look like a video game cutscene?
Yes, yeah.
She was like, why does it look like a cutscene from like a PS3?
From like the late, because this was like, the gaming wise would be then even later than this for that technology catch up. But this is like late 2000s, early 10s kind of style.
To be able to, because you can render a still image much more easily than you can create video. So this is maybe what video games looked like in about 2015, 2010 to 2015, which again really, really leads me to believe that this is 3D modeling. And again, I mean, if you just pick out certain panels, like you look at the way the rolls on those fingers are, you can kind of almost see where they've modeled those shapes. Yeah,
you can imagine. And again, to caveat, we might be wrong. Like, it could come out, or it could already be out there. They do this entirely with pencils and acrylics or whatever.
I did the research. Yeah. I did as thorough Googling as I could in the time I had with the headspace I had, and I couldn't find any specifics about the guy's process.
Yeah.
It may well be that if we were on the Bosnian side of YouTube, we'd be able to find it. He's a Bosnian artist.
Yeah.
So maybe if we started looking at like Bosnian language stuff, we might be able to find some interviews with him. Maybe that information is out there. It's just not in English. And because we are fucking English, we assume that things that aren't in English don't exist, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
Do
they not?
There's a little bit of post-imperial, like
dominant language for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, come on. But my argument is that if you were a brand new reader to comics in general, I think this might be a bit off-putting, and you'd be like, I don't really like those comic books, man. They look a bit fucking weird. Whereas for somebody who is already into comics but hasn't read any Iron Man, this was amazing, because I was like, oh, fucking look at this really weird, interesting Iron Man
You
comic.
go in with the knowledge of, this is weird art. Like, this is not the norm.
Yeah.
I will persevere and read the story.
Because Matey Boy, who I met at the thing with the Flash tattoo, if his tattoo had been of Tony Stark and I was recommending him an Iron Man comic, I would still tentatively recommend him this, but I'd say, just so you know, the art is weird.
Yes.
Like, the art is weird, and it's not typical of what comics looked like in 2005, and it's certainly not typical of what they then went on to look like. You know, if you don't like that art style, it's not the dominant culture. Also, if you do like that art style, well done for finding the one comic you're ever going to like first.
Yeah. It's the same thing if I met someone with a Superman tattoo and they were like, I haven't read any Superman comics, where would you start? I would still be like, there's this great one called The Kryptonite Spectrum. The art is weird. And I say that as a big fan of it, but like, beware.
The art is real weird. But yeah, so I think on that level, it kind of suffers a little bit, because I would be reticent to give this to a brand new reader of comic books. Because something that I've realized recently is that through the process of, doing this for the past few years, I've become quite an enthusiastic advocate for the medium.
Oh yeah, it's a great medium. Like, any kind of medium, once you have some experiences of like, oh my God, this thing in it was so good, and then you recognize like what the power of it is and what the advantages are of whatever medium. And then that's when your bar gets higher, and then you look at kind of like mid stuff and you're like, I know what you could be. Like, I know how good you could be.
Again, though, this is almost certainly not mid in any way.
No.
There is nothing middling about this.
No, it's all over the place in some regards.
It's sort of the ridiculous and the sublime, isn't it? In terms of the story...
Well, the one thing I was going to say about the art, what's interesting is, in comparing to that Ice Cream Man style... is that is almost like the polar opposite, but you get the similar results.
Yeah.
Because that stuff was like so different, like the furthest thing from realism, like how fucked up everyone's faces looked in that. Whereas this is uncannily real.
Yeah. Do you know, I've revisited it.
And?
I'm not as angry at it. It still gives me that visceral experience in my gut of like, I don't like this.
Yeah, but that's normal for that art.
And that's the thing though, isn't it? I think I reread it and I sort of sat with that feeling, and I was like, I kind of like that. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I've come around to it. Even though I still look at it and it makes my stomach go a little bit, and I'm like, it's so ugly.
You can make another evaluation once we get to their Dead Man series, once that comes out.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to point out with the art is, in similar thing with the Kryptonite Spectrum art, the Ice Cream Man style, is when it gets to the weird stuff, like in the first scene of the comic, a guy being affected by this Extremis stuff and changing. I think the art is effective. Like, it works well with this uncanny valley kind of style when something creepy or weird or violent is happening. And there's a bit later where you see Iron Man's fucked up hand after a fight. And I was like, that's really good for that specifically because it incurs like a feeling of like, ugh, but at a contextually appropriate thing for that feeling.
Yeah.
So similar to the Kryptonite stuff, like to the Kryptonite Spectrum stuff, it works when it's really weird. When it's just two people having a conversation, then you're like, I don't like how they look.
Also, did you get a really strong like Asian vibe from Tony Stark?
In some panels,
and
which
this
is bad
the
in
thing.
itself.
Yeah, panel, like when you first meet him and he's on the bed, he looks kind of Western, and then the next page when he's in the shower, there's one panel of him where, do you know what he reminded me of? Do you know exactly what he reminded me of? He reminded me of James Bond in Asia Face.
Yeah, a little bit.
He reminded me of, what was his name? Sean Connery Bond, made up to look Japanese. Like, they just kind of narrowed his eyes and like set his features up in such a way that with the very straight black hair and the little goatee, obviously Asian men don't necessarily grow,
big bushy beards.
Yeah, like, it's a big full bushy beard is very much like an Afro-Caribbean, not fucking Afro-Caribbean, African or Western European trait, isn't it?
I'll take your word for it.
Like, black men grow big bushy beards, white men grow big bushy beards, Asian people don't tend to.
Yeah.
That's what I was pussyfooting around trying to say. Again, of course.
I can't believe you just got cancelled.
Yeah.
saying that.
Of course, there are a million fucking exceptions to that, and that is not a hard and fast rule. But in speaking in the most general sense...
Which we can do because we're British. It's in our blood.
Which we can do because we're British.
Yeah.
And so I think it's the fact that he has the goatee and the very straight black hair, and then they've just narrowed his eyes in such a way that I'm like, why is Tony Stark Chinese?
Yeah. It's I don't know when he changed from, because their earlier Iron Man stuff, he had like a tash and like the goatee that doesn't connect round.
Yes.
So I don't know if
Which
that was
is
a change at some point.
Our RDJ went for, isn't it?
I don't know if that in the first one, because I know him later on for the connecting goatee. Like, I don't know if he had that in the first one.
I'm so confident it's the... Yeah, there you go, look. Yeah, look.
Yeah.
It's the non-connecting.
Fancier non-connecting kind of one, yeah.
Yeah, there's a name for that. I think it's a Van Dyke.
It's almost connecting. Like, it's so close to connecting, and there's just that bit you see that's not.
It's very manicured. Do you know what? I think Robert Downey Jr., because Robert Downey Jr. has persisted with the goatee, hasn't he?
I don't know. He went clean shaven for a bit. I think he's clean shaven currently.
Is he?
Yeah, I think he was when he did the Doom reveal. When he came out of Comic-Con, took the mask off, and he was like, "It's me!" I think he was clean shaven.
But he wore the goatee between filming for a long time. Like, he persisted with it for most of the time he was Iron Man.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's really interesting that Robert Downey Jr., he was in a really, like, he was in kind of a rubbish place in his life when he got Iron Man. Like, everything. I think
he was
really
in a better place. He was just fresh out of.
Yeah, he was just fresh out of like prison, addiction. It had a rough time, hadn't he? And then I think a big part of his rebrand was him kind of almost rebranding himself as Tony Stark. Like, he started wearing the sharp suits, and you know what I mean. Like, he was the perfect actor for that character. Big fan of Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
think he's a cool guy. You know, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is maybe the only white man who has openly done blackface and been given just a get out of jail free card for doing blackface for an entire film. In the general sense, culturally speaking, he got away with it.
Yes.
In the cultural sense, when you talk about Robert Downey Jr., the first thing that comes up isn't the time he did blackface. It's, I loved Iron Man. I'm really excited about Doom. Isn't it cool that he turned things around after all the issues he had with drugs?
Yeah.
That's the conversation that people have about Robert Downey Jr.
And normally any additional stuff is, and Tropic Thunder was really funny.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
Yeah.
To be fair, they had the best joke to like, hang a lantern on it, which was his character going, "What do you mean, you people?" And then the actual black guy going, "What do you mean, you people?" Like, it's such a joke that works with just the right inflection on words by certain characters. Like, that's a great joke.
Anyway,
the
story.
story.
So Essentially, you explained it perfectly earlier. We find Iron Man here kind of at the end of Iron Man 1. So he's made the suit, he's using the suit, he's iterating on the suit. The world doesn't yet know that he is Iron Man, and he's trying to keep it a secret.
The biggest difference from the comics and the films.
And then an old science colleague of his reaches out to him because there's been a murder, there's issues. And he helps her get to the bottom of the Extremis plot.
And then it unravels a mystery, and we will get to the ending at the end of the episode.
That can fuck off. We're real here, Ryan. There's no food stylist on deck.
Food stylist?
There's no food stylist on deck.
Is that a reference?
Yeah. I think it's an Action Bronson reference.
Right, because I thought you just pulled that out of your ass, and I was like, are you trying to start that as a reference? Like, as a slogan? Like,
no, I think that's an Action Bronson reference. But who doesn't want to reference Action Broxon? He's the best.
Action Broxon.
Action Broxon. Brock Action.
Brock Action Man.
Anyway, so because was it Iron Man 3 or Iron Man 2 that was the Extremis one?
Iron Man 3. Also,
Iron Man
just
3.
to clarify this on top, because we both only see it written, and they said in Iron Man 3, I can't remember. Are we going Extremis or Extremis? Because Extremis makes the most sense. I've been saying Extremis because for some reason I just got in my head that like it sounds more like weird science thing.
Whichever one you go with, I'll stay with.
But then Extremis works because obviously it's based on the word extreme.
Yeah.
But also like if you don't have the E after the M, like that's what makes it extreme.
Yeah, well, no, because any vowel can modify.
Yeah, I mean, that's the fun thing about the English language. Any syllable or word can sound, or letter can sound however you want for that word.
Yeah, that I could modify the sound of the E, but it could equally not. And we could both. I could find examples of words where it both does and doesn't modify the E.
Also, it's a made-up word.
Yeah,
and I know all words are made up, blah, 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 but this is literally a comic made-up word.
So can we make up a funnier word for it, like magic fire potion?
Steroids.
Steroids.
Because then every scene is like, he stole the steroids and now he's doing steroids. Like,
yeah, so the steroid people.
Yeah.
Right?
The roids.
The roids.
Yeah. The roid heads.
The roid heads. So,
and he's roid raging when he's like charging up.
So yeah, if the story's along the same themes as the Iron Man films, but of course, by the time we get to this story, there's a whole lot of baggage. So we don't have Pepper Potts.
I don't. If she exists in the comics, she wasn't as big a character.
Marvel Comics, Pepper Potts. That is definitely an idea that Jack Kirby had.
No, that's
Stan
a Stan
Lee
Lee. No, if it's an alliterative name, it's Stan Lee.
No. Iron Man having a hot blonde girlfriend, Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
The name Pepper Potts, Stan Lee.
What could a name be? And Stan's like, well, it has to be Pepper Potts. That's probably how we got to it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Pepper Potts is definitely a Stan Lee creation. And like, there's no way that's not. Her name's too dumb. Her name's too dumb and too alliterative.
We call her Petunia Parker. It's like you've used that one already. Oh, shucks.
Pepper Potts. Anyway.
Excelsior.
But we don't have Pepper Potts here.
No.
And she's a really central part of the way this story runs in the film because, of course, the contact, the roid guy is one of her friends, not his. Do you remember? The roid guy knew her.
Yeah, but because he met Tony in the Iron Man 3 film, he met Tony Stark like years and years ago.
Way back in the day.
Yeah, and then I think he got in with Pepper Potts to get closer to Tony Stark. I think was the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Because then at the end of Iron Man 3, spoilers for that film, if you haven't seen it, at the end he's like, "You wanted what's it the name? You wanted the Mandarin. I'm the Mandarin," and everyone in the audience went, "Boo!"
Yeah.
We want an actual Mandarin.
We want a real Mandarin. But so this story runs a bit differently because there was a lot of gubbins that they'd kind of scooped up and they had to deal with from the first two films, I think is fair to say.
Yeah.
Like the way that that final fight between them went down in the films is that Tony sends all of his suits. And that's like one of my favorite bits of the original Iron Man trilogy. I thought that was a really fun moment. All of these Iron Man suits and he's just like flitting between the suits and it's really cool, it's really fun. And again, remember, like one of my favorite things about the Iron Man films is the iterative nature of his suits, right? And so we don't have any of that here. What we have is a really great bread and butter superhero story.
See, I think this is a little further from a bread and butter superhero story. Maybe not as much of like for people who don't read as many superhero stories as we do. Like they might not know, like this might be the same. Like, oh, he has a bit of trouble and then he goes away and then he comes back.
So where do you think it diverges? I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just interested. I want to follow the train of your logic there.
Sure. So in terms of the classic to get into the story, we will save the very end stuff for the end of the episode for what it matters.
Ryan and I have had to re-record that 3 times.
Been lots of live action editing. But there is a general story of superhero, comes up against a challenge, fails at the first hurdle, goes away, does some stuff, and then comes back better and beats him in the end, right? Yeah. I don't think it's... Surprisingly, Iron Man does not die in these first 6 issues of this run, right?
Does he not?
Does he? No. But I think where it differs is in the very subtle differences. Like, as a superhero comic, we don't see Iron Man fight anyone until issue 3, right?
Okay.
How many superhero comics does it open with, like... Iron Man's just saving the day as he normally does. Like that, like the first scene is like stopping a bank robbery or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
I suppose.
I think it's interesting that you don't see him. You see him in the Iron Man armor in the first issue, but he just goes for a fly around, right?
Yeah.
And then it's not till 3 that he fights someone. I think we see a lot of like Tony Stark, like his inner thinking that actually comes out not in narrative dialogue, but actually in conversation. I think. One thing is that the reason he loses in the first hurdle, normally they lose just because the enemy's so powerful, right? And then they go away and then they believe in themselves or the power
they run
of friendship.
Faster.
Well, yeah.
If you're Tim Allen, you just run faster.
Exactly.
If you're Barry Allen, sorry.
Tim Allen's home improvement.
If you're Barry Allen, you just run faster.
Yes. With this,
I don't know why I'm hating on the Flash so hard this week.
Oh, you just hated Flashpoint that much.
Yeah.
Which once we did it, I was like, yeah, I actually agree with your points, to be fair.
Because you quite liked it, and then I came in so hot, and you were like, oh, yeah, you're right.
I still think it's a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But like, I wouldn't recommend it or anything.
No.
But in this, there is like a very quantitative, like, he is faster than me. My armor is not fast enough to match him, and I need to do something about that specifically. And what he does about it, I think, to me, it wasn't like you believed in yourself or your friendship, whatever. Like it wasn't a positive thing. The way he gets about beating this guy with the Extremis, with the roids, was like, how's that going to pan out after this? Yeah. Like, he left me with that. So it is like structurally, plot points wise, it is the standard super story.
Yeah, okay.
But there was a lot of little stuff that I was like, made it really interesting.
I suppose to a certain degree, there's something a little bit post Garth Ennis about it. It's like it benefits from comic books being able to go a bit further and getting a little bit grittier in the late 90s.
I would even credit that to the 80s, to Alan Moore and Frank Miller and those kind of guys.
Yeah, this very much is of the era in terms of the early 2000s where comics could be a bit grittier.
So I think they were grittier in general tones in the 90s. Like, everyone was like wearing black and suddenly had like spikes in their costume and stuff, and Superman died and that was really metal.
That's kind of camp.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that's like surface level dark and gritty. I think post 2001, I think we started getting into moral grey areas more. And like a big part of this is his stance as a ex-arms dealer, right?
Yeah.
And I thought they brought up a lot of interesting stuff. Like, one of the earliest scenes in this is an interview he has with a challenging documentary filmmaker.
So I really wanted to talk about that in a bit more detail, because I thought that scene was really reminiscent of, and I think probably was the basis of, the court hearing in the first Iron Man film.
A little bit, because the court hearing is very much about, like, you have this Iron Man technology, like, you got to give it to us, the government.
Yeah.
This, I think, was a bit more like the ethics of Iron Man, of Tony Stark, and
but I think I feel like they hit on the same talking points, and I feel as though that first Iron Man film actually does make an attempt to delve into the ethics of him being an arms dealer. Like, he is in Iraq and he sees his weapons being used by the bad guys, and he makes a decision that he's not going to sell arms anymore. And
suffers them firsthand as well.
Yeah, and then he makes the Iron Man, and he makes the Iron Man suit to escape, which is very much in this comic.
Yes.
Like, that origin story is lifted straight from this comic. But that first Iron Man film is trying to deal with some of that. And I agree with you, it's dealt with better here. I absolutely agree with you. It's extrapolated upon much further here. And what we see in the film is very much a film version of something from the comic books.
Yeah.
But again, I think that first Iron Man film owes so much to that specific conversation. Because I think that one conversation about the ethics of him as an ex-arms dealer and his relationship with the arms industry and his relationship with weapons and how he views the Iron Man suit and how he views himself as a superhero, that is exactly what we get in Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're trying to do. I think it's dealt with better here. And I think there's more nuance and detail here because, of course, there is. It's written words on a page. There's always going to be.
I mean, we've read other comics. They don't always do this much nuance.
No. It's a boon to this comic because I find the dialogue to be a little bit stilted everywhere else. But in that scene, it flows really well and it's really tight.
My perspective, and it's kind of a different aspect that I enjoyed, I thought it was quite tight dialogue. And what I noticed was, so we will get back to the interview because I've got more to say on that.
Yeah.
But there's opening scene where these guys, these mysterious guys who we think are kind of criminals or something, go in with this guy, open this box, take out this thing, inject him with it, and he gets the Extremis and then he starts like freaking out when they run away because he's throwing up black goo and stuff. Normally, those scenes in comics and also larger like television and film stuff, the Whedonified, Marvelified like dialogue in films, normally, and you can trace this back also to like Tarantino, normally these guys would be having some asinine conversation while they're doing this stuff because Tarantino really built on that fact of like, these guys are normal people, so they're going to be having normal like workplace colleague conversations.
It's the Samuel L. Jackson Big Kahuna Burger stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, quarter pounder with cheese and all that.
They're in the car. In France, they call it a Royale with cheese, and you can get it with a beer.
And there is something to that, like, because I enjoy Tarantino films, and I mainly for the feet pics, obviously, but
yeah, who doesn't want to see Margot Robbie's feet?
Keep them up there. We're gonna film it for a while. But
I feel like Quentin Tarantino. We all like when I was a lit student 15 years ago, he was the fucking guy, and there were 3 posters on everyone's walls, right? It was the Train Spotting by a big fucking television thing.
Yep.
It was Pulp Fiction.
Yep.
And what was the other one?
I'm going to say Scarface. Poster.
Yeah. But the 2 big ones in like arty kind of, liberal fucking studying...
Baby's first cinephile like pack is like Train Spotting, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, and it was the big orange Train Spotting poster and the big Pulp Fiction poster. We were all choking on Tarantino's dick 15 years ago. And I come back to it and I'm like, he's just a white guy that really loves saying the N-word. Like,
I mean, I wouldn't say it's just that, but that is a big part of it.
But honestly, like, I look at that fucking rape scene in Pulp Fiction, and I'm like, does that need to be there?
And none of it is all based on, or to a certain extent later in his career, like just replicating and copying exploitation films that he enjoyed. So either exploitation or spaghetti westerns or a mixture of the two, right?
Because I watched recently The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, because he says it's the perfect film. By the way, fantastic fucking film. Really great. But yeah, and
but have you seen Shazam 2?
Do you know what, Ryan?
Fury of the Gods. Got to be getting that in there.
I haven't seen Shazam 2, no, but I did watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly recently, and I was like, Quentin Tarantino's right. It's a perfect fucking film. You know the really tense conversation in the dairy in Inglourious Bastards?
Yes, yeah.
That's a straight copy of a conversation in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That's the thing. Tarantino's really good at copying stuff.
He is, yeah, and that's his thing, and he's not shy about that. He's quite honest about it.
Yeah. But the reason I mention him at all is is like it was good at the time that before his films, dialogue was pretty stilted, and it was very much like if it wasn't like overly theatrical stuff from like, Streetcar era kind of stuff, it was very realistic, but it was also realistic, but still like skimmed down to the bone. So like bad guys, when they were doing stuff, they just said bad guy stuff. Whereas Tarantino's like, well, they're still humans. They're going to, say normal stuff. that I think was intensified by the Whedon-esque
The
and
path of the
Marvel-fied.
righteous man is beset on all sides.
Again, not that scene, but the
Yeah.
big Kahuna Burger stuff.
But the big Kahuna Burger stuff
Yes.
and...
So what I just found interesting
you were going to make
as opposed to most comics, especially modern day comics, there would be some kind of like some jokes or some like trivial kind of stuff that everyone is trying to do that Whedon-esque dialogue.
Yeah.
I found it refreshing that back in 2005 when this came out, the criminals are just like, got the thing? Good, let's do it. Like that. And I was like, oh shit, like that's
Also,
different.
Tony Stark isn't crazy quippy here.
No, exactly. And again, I think Robert Downey Jr. specifically being in the Marvelified, dialogue machine and being like almost the prototype for it in kind of modern cinema.
Yeah.
Like maybe was he the first like quippy character who didn't need to be quippy?
Yeah. And then I feel like Star-Lord wouldn't have been as quippy.
Exactly. He wouldn't have been played by a known comedy actor for sure. He would have been played by like a standard leading man kind of.
Well, it's so interesting because that role kind of made Chris Pratt a standard leading man.
Yes.
Because before that, he was the fat, funny one from Parks and Recs, right? Like, that's what everyone knew him as.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he's like a fit, chiseled leading man. And again, I think you're absolutely right. I think Robert Downey Jr. not being a particularly conventional leading man by the time he did Iron Man is the reason that they were able to do that a bit more.
I think they knew he was good at quippy stuff. Not just generally his work beforehand, but specifically Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah.
I think, is that the one or is it The Long Kiss Goodnight? I always get it's Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah,
is it with Val Kilmer?
Yeah,
But he is a very quippy character in that.
He's really good in that.
Yeah, he's really good. And I think that carried over, like, not only is he good to play Iron Man, but also he can do these kind of bits and jokes and stuff, and that helps as well. And yeah, I see what you mean. Like in this dialogue, he's very straight to the point and matter of fact, and kind of hates himself in the mirror kind of thing, which you wouldn't see nowadays.
A little bit serious and a little bit brooding.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a little Bruce Wayne in there.
It doesn't mention his alcoholism, but apart from the point where someone offers him a drink and he says, someone asks him, are you still not drinking? He goes, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting, isn't it? Because in the films, which this is this comic, I feel is really the archetype for the films.
Yeah, 100%.
He's a heavy drinker, but he's a fun drunk, and he kind of naturally progresses towards not drinking. There's no like I'm an alcoholic.
Becomes generally healthier, doesn't he?
Yeah, and that to me is quite British. Like that, I think that's a very normal experience of like a British man in his 30s, where you go from drinking a lot in your 20s and then suddenly you drink a lot less.
It's funny to me that you think you ascribe that to being British. I think that's just a Western thing.
Well, no, because I think the conversation around alcohol in America is very 12 steps, very kind of born again Christian.
There's certainly more of that. Yeah.
I was an alcoholic and now I've done the 12 steps and I've been to therapy and I'm not an alcoholic. Like something that I notice a lot from like American fucking YouTubers is that people I never would have considered alcoholics are like, I was an alcoholic and I am now going to spend 2 minutes at the start of this YouTube video selling you BetterHelp.
That very reliable service.
Which helped me stay clean and sober. And then they go back to their other thing. And it's like the conversation around drinking in America is very severe. And it's like, hello, I'm an alcoholic. I go to AA meetings. I'm on the 12 steps. Whereas you would have to go real fucking far in England to be considered an alcoholic. Maybe I'm drawing a false dichotomy between Britain and America here. What I'm actually talking about is something really unusual about American culture that I don't see a corollary for anywhere else, particularly in like Europe, Britain, Australia, you know? Like you have to go quite far to be considered an alcoholic in a European country or Australia. Whereas in America, it's like, I have 2 beers a night. I'm an alcoholic. I need to go sort this out.
Yeah, I think that is a bit of a new age thing in just Western culture as well. I think because what's all the news stories about like Gen Z aren't drinking as much now. They're more like health conscious and all that kind of stuff. Like, although I did see some news stories recently where it's just like, now Gen Z has gotten a bit older. They're actually starting to drink more now. It's like, and all the comments were like, now you got a job. Now you see why we were drinking. So welcome to the pub. But yeah, I do find it interesting that MCU never bothered to do that storyline. I don't know if maybe tonally, like they just didn't want to address all that kind of stuff. I think it would have made for a far more interesting like character in their Tony Stark.
Yeah, well, it's fun because they did give him an anxiety disorder for a bit.
Yeah, and the problem with that was that they didn't really address it or fix it by the end of the film.
No,
He was just better.
Yeah, he just sort of was having panic attacks, and then he stopped having panic attacks, and there was no A to B there, was there?
No, exactly. But I think this Tony Stark in this comic does carry a bit more weight.
Yeah.
You know? And I think
he's quite severe and quite serious, more so than I think I've ever seen that character.
He does quip a little, occasionally he'll say a little something, but it's not even that severe a quip, you know? But I think it does the weight and darkness of this character, to say it a little more severely, it does come across more in the interview scene.
Yes.
And I think what's interesting about this interview scene is something that he requested. He was like, I want this guy to interview me. And then in the interview panning out, we see he is a documentary maker who goes after people in industries. Like
it's Louis Theroux, isn't it?
A bit more like, I think, like activist based.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting that they talk about his early days as a weapons manufacturer and basically arms dealer. And I'm surprised that Tony seemed quite defensive about it, because then later he's talking to like the board of Stark Industries, and they're like, oh, well, money, like, it's not infinite money. Like, we can't do everything. Maybe if you let us take on some military contracts. And Tony's like, absolutely no military contracts.
Yeah.
And I thought that's odd then, thinking back to the interview scene, because he's defensive about it. But then later it's like, well, aren't you are like the guy who, oh shit, I was making weapons. I don't like that. And now I'm making Iron Man suits, and
he's defensive about the fact he did it. But he's quite clear about the fact that, like, my goals now are different.
Yeah. But you would think that someone who's now, again, maybe I'm going too much by the films, because in the films, like you say, it's less subtle, because he's like, I don't give a shit, and I'm a weapons dealer, and look at me, I'm rich, and all that. And then he goes through his origin after he's like, I'm actually a changed man now, and we're not going to do that anymore. But it's very A to B, quite hard.
I think the line that he uses at the end of that courtroom scene is, you should be thanking me. I've
privatized world peace.
I've privatized world peace.
Yeah.
What a line.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so overt, isn't it?
Yeah. But now he's trying to be his version of like a good savior, helping mankind kind of thing. Whereas in
White
this,
savior.
Yeah. Whereas in this, he seems a little more like, again, like he's more nuanced. He's not. He's defensive of his origins as an arms dealer and arms creator, but also he is living that life of like, we're not making stuff for the military. We are, but then he's like defending it in the interview where he's like, well, we made it for the military, and then they gave us the funds, we could continue the research, and then we made these life-saving products for people. But then the interviewer correctly is like, oh, did those life-saving products make it to the people of Iraq? And he's like, well, he's like, because the weapons did. And I just felt like it felt like a realistic argument, and argument's a strong word, but a realistic argument between these two kind of opposing viewpoints, where neither wins or loses, but they make their points and then they kind of walk away. And I think that was more interesting than if Tony Stark was like, slam dunk, won the argument, or, something like that.
Which is what happens in the films. But
Exactly.
that needed to happen for those films to make sense. Whereas here, there can be more nuance. I fully agree with you. I think.
But in the films, post his origin, he would be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I made weapons, everyone. Like, in this one, he's like, well, I did it for these reasons. And that's more interesting, a character.
Do you know, I saw the artwork, right? And I was really prepped to not like this comic. And then I read that scene and it piqued my interest.
Oh, yeah, same, yeah.
I think this scene really highlights what can be so interesting in this medium.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he's only half paying attention to the conversation, by the way, and he's sketching a new Iron Man suit while he's having that discussion.
And what's interesting is that his kind of point at the end, he's like, so you're this activist filmmaker and you make those films and I want to speak to you. And he's like, okay. And he's like, have any of your films made a difference? And I'm like, yeah, like,
have they?
It's one thing raising awareness, but like he talks about like your fan base are the people who watch your films are people who are already activists and on your side of this argument and politically. So what effect is your work actually having?
Yeah.
And I think he's kind of subtly making the point of like, yeah, I made stuff for weapons that kill people in third world countries, but I also, because of that, made life-saving things that literally saved people's lives, like with medical technology and stuff. So who are you to criticize me?
Yes.
And again, he's not winning the argument with that, but I also think this whole thing, it's written so well that it's like, there is no right or wrong answer.
No,
Like,
and I feel like that one conversation almost cuts to the exact core of what Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, was thinking when he created the character.
I mean, if you ask Stan Lee, he's like, I thought it'd be great to make a weapons dealer superhero after Vietnam.
But that's the point, isn't it? Yeah. They wanted to see what they could do with a person who had the most unlikable profession possible. And that's what that conversation then naturally has to become, isn't it? Is, you know, and again, nobody even knows that he's the Iron Man here. They think that Iron Man is one of his bodyguards, and he's, I suppose, ultimately, if he's created the suit, it doesn't matter.
Iron Man's like the Stig.
Yeah, it does.
Very, very niche British reference.
Very not that niche.
Okay, fair enough.
Most popular TV show of all time, I think. It was one of I think at one point it was the most popular. It was had the widest broadcast.
People know the main three guys.
Yeah. Even if there was somebody else piloting the suit, because he created the suit and only he could do that, he kind of is Iron Man, even if he isn't in the suit. You know,
I do find it interesting that, and I think it's still, if anything, it applies more today. I think it's, you know, the whole thing of like Superman, like his glasses, like how could anyone not know the like suit, like Clark Kent of Superman? I had that kind of thought initially of like, oh, like Tony Stark happened to make this armor, and now some other person is a superhero in the armor. Like, what are the odds? But I also think in reality, and what this kind of uses is like, because there's people protesting Stark outside, and they see Iron Man fly, like, oh, Iron Man's cool. It made me realize in the moment, like, if he exists in real life, we would probably be like, well, of course Tony Stark's not part in the arm. Like, billionaires aren't going to risk their own lives saving people, and that's the best cover. Like, the real guy's an arsehole. He could never be a superhero. Like, that's the best disguise.
Absolutely.
If you're secretly a superhero. You can't be like, Peter Parker's so nice, and whoa, he's disappeared. Oh, Spider-Man's here. Like, and they're the same height. Like, it works better if you're like, Peter Parker's a fucking arsehole. Like, he'd never do anything to help people.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? Like, the expectation that Tony Stark would actually be in the suit himself is so outside of what people would expect.
Yeah, risking his life. Like, come on.
To help the common man while I'm busy protesting his guns? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, exactly. Wow, I'm surprised we made it almost an hour, like, already.
There was a big old detour in the middle.
Yes, which may or may not stay in. We don't know. Yeah. But I did find it very interesting that I was kind of hyped for the fight between Iron Man and the roids up guy.
The roids up guy.
Because they think they did a good job not showing him fighting at all up until then. I was like, how is this fight actually going to go? Like, I got a pretty good idea. And seeing Iron Man just getting his ass kicked by this guy, like, it carried more weight because they'd been hyping up like all this stuff that he can do, but then you're like, but he's Iron Man, like, surely that can't be that much of an issue. And he just mops the floor with them. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah. Do you want to get into the reveal at the end?
I don't think it's important.
All I was going to say was I thought it was cool that the reveal is similar to Iron Man 3, where I think it's kind of an interesting one that the woman, so a guy basically kills himself at his desk and leaves a confession to like leaking this Extremis stuff to two terrorists, basically.
The roids.
Yes.
Leak
the roids to the gym rats. Yeah. And but then in the moment along the way, they access the Extremis, and it's like, we need to use these key cards. There's 2 key cards to access it. Didn't think anything of it at the time, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then at the end, where it's like, actually, I think you helped the guy.
Because you need 2 key cards, and he had one and you had the other.
And I literally read it, I went, oh shit. Like, I didn't see that. That's
It was
cool.
a nice twist. Again, I mean, it's a twist ending. That's what it is. It is what it is, isn't it?
It was just it wasn't big enough where I was like, whoa. But it was like a nice enough bit of writing. I was like, oh shit.
We had met her a bit and been encouraged to kind of empathize with her as a character.
Yeah.
And so they'd done a good enough job of making it impactful in any way.
Yes.
I mean, again, the story itself is good. Like, I think it's a good enough story. For me, what was so interesting about it is the stuff we were just talking about with that interview, and how it really cracks into the ideology behind the Iron Man character. And I think that's the reason that this is such a great entry point, is because that is what is most interesting about this character.
And then it links into like his whole thing about like, well, if you do some bad stuff, but you get good results, like ends justifying the means.
Yeah.
But then that becomes the woman scientist reason. She's like, well, if I leak the Extremis, but then get Tony Stark and thus Iron Man's help, and they fight and it's on TV, we'll get money to continue our research. And we could Extremis stuff, rewiring the brain, like they could cure cancer or make people immortal.
Well, she said within 4 years.
Yeah.
She thought she could cure cancer within 4 years.
Yeah. So I think that's such a good, like, relating back to the core themes from that interview. So, and I do think what was very interesting, but it's more of a payoff for after, because this run obviously continued after the story. The fact that Iron Man just so quickly is like, give me the Extremis. Like, I was surprised by that, because normally the story you see, like, with Super Soldier, also relating to the Super Soldier stuff, I thought Super Soldier stuff is the biggest, like, yeah, you got a Captain America out of it, and he's great, but there's been so much bad stuff, people trying to replicate that Super Soldier serum.
It's sort of one of the core tenets of Marvel, isn't it?
Yeah.
That at some point there's going to be a Super Soldier thing.
Yeah, a bad version of it. But I thought what's interesting, normally in that story, what you get is the hero tries to fight the villain who is empowered some way, like it with a bad thing, and then they get beat, and then the hero's like, I could take or someone else is like, well, if you took the thing, and sometimes it is Super Soldier Serum, like Anthony Mackie's Captain America, the Falcon had that. They're like, you could take the serum, and you could be superpowered, and then you could beat them, and eventually they're like, no, I don't know. I think that's a bad idea. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to believe in myself, actually. Yeah. In this, it was a bit of a curveball for me where Tony Stark's like, I know, give me the Extremis. And the scientist is like, what? And he's like, yeah.
Fucking crack on.
Give me the Extremis. Not the fire-breathing kind, but give me the rewiring my brain kind, and I'll connect to my armor. Also, cool little thing, the chip in his arm when he activates stuff, very cool little bit, because it happens once, I was like, that's cool, and it happens second time, I'm like, that's cool. Like, I like that a little bit. But yeah, I think that was for me a very kind of like, how is he's got, like, he's weirdly superpowered now. He's not got superpowers, but he's like upgraded and connected to his armor and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Cool, wasn't it?
But yeah, what I was kind of referencing earlier, or trying not to spoil stuff, is that the way that he solves it, he gets beat by the enemy, goes away, and instead of believing himself or friendship or whatever, he's like, give me the Extremis, and now I'm fast enough in my armor to beat the guy, and he does, and he fucking blows his head off.
Again, though, this is all the superhero shenanigans stuff, which I think is the least interesting bit of this comic.
See, to me, it was interesting, because now you get into like how far is he going to push himself and potentially lose his humanity in trying to be the guy who solves all the problems. You know?
Maybe.
But the reason I mention is that could be a more interesting topic in the later stories following this.
Because this is the first
6 issues of the run, yeah.
Yeah, so there's more of this.
Yeah. It went on for, like, I think, like 30 issues or something.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, which is like years.
The amount of water used to run the servers that made all that art.
I mean, back then, it wasn't those kind of servers. If anything, it was a Windows 95 that was just like blowing steam. Wasn't the same as nowadays.
They're like, fucking spray the computer down, mate. It's getting too hot.
A liquid cooling in that thing. But yeah, I think, to sum up, a great entry point for new fans who want to get into Iron Man comics.
In summation, I think that's fair.
So we've only got 2 more things. One is comments. It's a busy podcast. We do a lot. We give the people what they want.
Right, okay. Can I read the comment?
Yeah, it's just a fun one. It's from the same person who left the comment last week, but this is in reference to Marvel 1776.
The art is the reason I don't like Marvel right now. How do you have so many artists and the art is still bad? Correction, Franklin the Freak is on our $100 one again great episode? Don't understand.
We had a discussion on the episode, if you don't remember, about whether Benjamin Franklin was on any of the money or not.
And what did I say?
I think we both assumed he wasn't. And this person is like, no, he's on the 100.
Right, there we go. Sorry. Yeah, right. So we thought he wasn't on any of the money, but he is on the $100 bill.
Yes.
Because I only know about the $10 founding father without a father.
I only know about, was it Andrew Jackson is on one of them, because a lot of people do that thing in films where they're like, well, if you won't speak to me, how about my friend Lincoln? And it's a penny.
Yeah. Andrew Jackson's on the 20s.
What about my friend 4 Lincolns? It's 4 pennies.
It's awful because we've both spent USD. Like, we've both seen USD and spent it.
I mean, I try and do it here, but I just get bad looks.
Fuck off. Thank you, Lance. I understand your comment now. Oh, yeah, because it's a couple Benjis.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Benjamins. Like the rappers say.
Yeah, like I've got the Benjamins.
You know the rappers.
I'm acquainted with some rappers.
They love the Benjamins.
They're all about the Benjis.
They haven't just got many friends named Benjamin that they're very enthusiastic about. They're referring to $100 bills.
Right, what's the other thing?
You know, dollar bills, yo.
Dollar bills, yo.
Anyway, and the other thing is I've got a present. Because
Thank you.
I went to a comic book store.
You got me a comic.
So the reason I went to the store was I was very interested. I was interested in a while in the DC compacts. I know.
Yeah.
Oh, bloody hell. You know what I've done as well? Got to mention at the top of the episode, it is the 5th week of Marvchul.
Oh,
It is an unusual 5th week of Marvchul. And
Yeah.
once again, I didn't mention up top because I was like, we're doing this thing. It's entry point for Iron Man fans.
It's an interesting idea that we had.
But also, for anyone who cares, it's the 5th week of Marvchul. It's a rare 5th weeker.
Been a great Marvchul.
Kind of explains why we've had a bump in all these numbers. Because people are like, have you heard it's Marvchul on the Comic Lyra podcast?
It's the Marvchul crowd.
It's a 5-weeker Marvchul this year. Oh my God.
The Marvchul casuals are here.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like people in pubs at Christmas.
They're like, I heard it's Marvchul. What's going on?
So I'm concerned that you're about to give me a shirtless picture of Dick Grayson.
If they sold that, they'd be sold out. So
There'd be none left.
yeah. But what I have been getting into is, well, I've been seeing these DC compacts, right?
They're really cool.
Yes. And I thought, like, oh, that'd be cool to have. Like, my biggest reason for not collecting as much comic books as I would like physically is because of space. I cannot fit yard boxes of comics in my home, right?
I keep looking at the Why the Last Man compact.
Yeah. I've already got that, the big bloody trade.
You've got the
volume 1. Like,
You've got the trade paperback, haven't you? Because
yes,
I've got
hardback. Got the hardback.
Because I've got all of the trade paperbacks of Saga, which
Yeah.
I'm very pleased that I own those. But yeah, no, I do keep looking at the Why the Last Man one. I also keep looking at some of the Batman stuff because it looks quite fun.
It does look good. And I'm definitely going to get more. But I thought I'll go in, see what they got. And mainly because also I saw a post from my local comic book shop.
Yeah.
And what I was shocked by was the price. Because I just assumed that they were similar, at least price, to these big trades.
They're like a paperback. They're like £8 or £9.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw the price, I was like, oh, I'm definitely getting some. Like, probably get one a month, like, at that rate. Just
they're
collect
nice
them.
to have and they're cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was in there. I thought, you know what? They're so cheap. I'll get one for me, and I'll get one for my comic book podcast co-host. So for me, I got little known favorite, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Oh, fucking
great comic.
One of my favorites.
Exactly.
An amazing comic.
So I got myself that, and I'll pass you this bag. It's a gift bag.
Yeah.
If anyone's wondering.
I understand.
So you can.
Okay, we'll ASMR it. We'll ASMR it.
So you can open the gift and see which DC compact I got you. Do you want to tell everyone what it is?
You are a mean-spirited man, Ryan.
Well, I got you a present. What could be mean-spirited about a present?
You got me a copy of All-Star Superman.
That's quite a popular Superman comic.
Ryan.
They were almost sold out because it's so popular.
For new listeners, go listen to our episode on All-Star Superman. You will understand why I'm chuckling at this.
You seem quite happy with the gift.
Thank you very much, Ryan. I appreciate it.
I mean, if you don't want to keep it, maybe I could swap. Do you want to swap?
No, I'm more than happy with my gift.
You want to keep that?
Unless you specifically did this as a bit and you'd actually bought me Supergirl and yourself Superman.
I mean, look, cards on the table. I did do this as a bit, a £10 bit, but if I'm also being completely honest, like, I like All-Star Superman. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah.
This is one of the best comics ever.
That is one of the best comics ever.
If you want it,
no, I will.
Which will you actually read?
Oh, that one, obviously.
Well, then you take that.
Oh,
So
dude,
you can take
Oh my God,
Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
This is my favourite comic.
And I will keep the underappreciated All-Star Superman.
Thank you very much. This is amazing.
God, look, I flicked open Bizarro. Bizarro's gone straight as soon as I opened it. One of the best characters in the Superman universe.
Man, do you know what, though? DC fucking cooked with these.
Yeah, these are amazing.
DC... Because I keep eyeing up, and I love that you didn't go to like a big bookshop. You went to our local comic book shop because they're nice guys in there.
Yeah, 100%.
But DC cooked with these, man, because they're the same form factor as a book. You can read them on the bus, and people won't think you're a weirdo. It puts a whole big comic like this into a little book shape.
Yeah. Mine's going on my bookshelf because it can fit.
This is one of the best things DC have ever done. Yeah. It's such a good idea. It's such
DC
a good idea.
are killing it right now.
They kind of are.
They've got so much going for them. They even had Decebuary that we did for them, we do every year.
Yeah.
Marvel had Marvchul. Yeah. And with Decebuary, that came about because we were just reading a lot of DC stuff, and we were like,
we were just doing.
We could do a whole month of it.
Yeah.
And then obviously Marvel naturally came along as it does in the calendar. But I was struggling to be like, what Marvel stuff can we do? Like, there is Marvel stuff out. There's always Marvel stuff out. But there wasn't a lot of stuff I was like enthusiastic to cover now.
We ended up going to some really weird places for Marvel. Most notably, a random Iron Man comic from 2005. Like, we went to some weird places for it.
I would say Marvel 1776 was a weirder place to go, because this this was one of the most well received Iron Man stories,
and this was an idea that I'd had a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? Where it's like, should we try and do some episodes about the best entry points to the different characters? And actually, having done it, I am confident that it is a good idea.
Yeah,
and I'm really happy that we did it.
And it's not the only thing I bought, because as I showed you when you first attended,
that's such a good issue.
I also got issue 7 of the current Batman run by Matt Fraction. And the reason I bought this one specifically, so it's in his run, he is going into the Joker well, which initially, as soon as I saw that was happening, I was like, don't like that. Like, I don't like, we always have to keep going to the Joker, but he is doing a really interesting thing. The Joker is so you remember when we covered it, there's a woman who is like treating and rehabilitating bad guys, right?
Yeah.
And, psychotic people, whatever. She's doing it with Killer Croc. Turns out she's got the Joker in a vat, like a big tube of liquid kind of thing, and helping him rehabilitate. Batman's like, he's obviously lying. He's definitely evil. He's going to break out. He's going to kill people, like that. And it turns out the Joker is, interestingly, he's like, I acknowledge what I've done, and I'm not tricking anyone. I am bad. I don't want to be bad anymore. You can't trust me to not be bad, so you need to keep me locked up here.
Yeah.
I'm trusted. And he's like, Batman, I know you don't believe me, which is good, because you won't let them release me. Yeah. So that's why we're here. There is, in this comic, a page, a kind of splash page, and it's Batman kind of looking at the Joker in his tube with his face mask on and stuff, and like, let me guess, you're going to claim not to remember anything because he's done this before.
Yeah.
And it cuts to 2 pages,
wow.
Joker in his thing, saying, I remember everything. And then you open the pages.
Oh, wow.
And it's a great 4-page splash page of art with just like this psychotic, like all a bunch of crazy stuff that Joker's done in his past, including little old beaten to death Jason Todd in the corner there.
That's so cool, mate.
But it's fantastic. So yeah, I went in, got the compacts, and then I saw because this was like last month's issue, I think.
Yeah, and they just still had one knocking around.
They had a bunch still. And I was like, shit, man, if these aren't going, like, this was like less than a $5. So I was like, obviously I'm getting this.
Yeah, no, that's super cool, man. That's so cool.
So remember, go to your local comic book shop. I know space sucks, and just get some cool stuff that you can keep. And if you can get Batman issue 7, even better.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, if you are new to comics and you came to this episode because you are new to comics, you may have come to this specifically because you're an Iron Man fan. You may have just been like, oh, there's this podcast that talks about comics and they're talking about good first comics. A really great place to start is these DC compacts.
Yes.
Like, I mean, we're talking, 9 GBP, so probably about $12, $13 if you're American. It's weird hearing a British person say bucks or an American person say quid. But like, you know,
De Niro.
But somewhere between like $10 to $15, I would probably assume.
Far less than a Benjamin.
Not even. Yeah, I mean, you can get one for nearly a Hamilton and a few Washingtons.
I've only got a couple of Lincolns. What does that get me?
Nothing. They don't even mint them anymore, do they?
Oh, of course. I mean, are the existing ones more valuable now? They're limited edition now.
No, yeah, they are. Yeah. But yeah, for a couple cheeky Alexander Hamiltons, you can get the entire run of like a really iconic comic book. The two that you bought, actually, because I don't like All Star Superman, but most people do, and The Woman of Tomorrow is great. They do Why the Last Man.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I saw The Killing Joke.
Yeah, to be fair, Killing Joke, I saw I don't know if it was hardback or paperback, but the trade of that was only like 15 quid or something. So like the full ones, because it's not a long comic. It's only like 2 issues worth of.
But Why the Last Man?
They're the big DC compact, which if it's the same price, I'm definitely getting V for Vendetta. It's a thick compact.
It is the same price.
Yeah.
And do you know who sells them in the UK cheap? HMV.
Well, yeah, HMV might sell them, and if that's the only place you can get them from, like, fair enough.
Go to your local
But
comic
if you can get them from your local comic book shop, get them from there.
But yeah, no, I saw V for Vendetta the other day, and it was around this price. It
Nice.
wasn't, and that's a really great comic.
I'm probably going to be getting like one of these a month. I might end up with all
Are
of them.
you just going to collect all of them?
I don't know if all of them, because one of them is a Batgirl comic, which I haven't read, so I don't know if it's any good or not. One of them is a series, I think by Grant Morrison, that I just had never heard of. Like, it's not a superhero thing. I assume it's like Why Last Man is Vertigo, so that's under DC, and that's why they released it as part of it. But I think it's called AW3 or something like that, and it has like some dogs on the front.
Yeah.
But I was surprised, like, oh wow, DC Compacts. And I was like, as if there's one of these I've never heard of. Like me.
Well, when I
Mr.
saw that Why the Last Man was in there, I was like, that's interesting to me. That's really interesting to me, because I have issue 1 of Why the Last Man.
That's a good issue.
It is. You and I both do a thing, don't we, where if there's a series that we really like, we like to make sure we have like a nice clean copy of issue number 1.
Yeah, I don't do that as much anymore, only because that is such a common thing people do.
Yeah.
Like, number 1s are artificially inflated, and it just seems like... So I kind of don't bother. Like, if I really like a thing, I'll get like the first volume. Like, I'll get that as like later on and just get the collected thing.
Because for your birthday, I bought you number 1 of something we both really liked, didn't I?
Yes. Was that Saga?
No, you bought me number 1 of Saga years ago for my birthday. Years ago for my birthday, you bought me number 1 of Saga. What was it I brought you? I saw issue number 1 of something we reviewed really highly. And so I just picked it up for you for your birthday, because it was like, it was already boarded and stuff.
Was it Public Domain?
Public Domain.
Yeah.
Yes, I picked you up. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So like, I have issue number 1 of Saga that you bought me. I have issue number 1 of Why the Last Man, which I treasure. You know, it's like, it's nice to have the first issue, but these are such a good fucking deal.
These, I generally think, are going to be more common, because they're one of the biggest things competing with like manga and stuff is like a manga, you just buy one of these, and then you've got the thing. And I think like DC, the only way you can get the only way you could get like a collected edition of like collected stories or issues was these like expensive trade paperbacks.
We could do a whole episode on this, because I think what's so interesting about them is that DC are aware that the community around comic books, it's all about collecting, and it's about having valuable comics and having, you know, first appearances of stuff,
and shirtless Nightwing variant covers, which I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to go track some down now. Just for my own personal collection. If I go, next time I go to the shop, if I see any, I'll buy you one.
I bet they're expensive. But you can just go and buy an affordable physical copy of a really great comic book and sit and fucking read it, and there is a charm to it, and it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm gonna be rereading this. The only thing that's gonna be keeping me from reading this is the fact I'm trying to keep up to date with comics as they're coming out.
Dude, I mean, you are speaking to a parent who has. You're speaking to a parent who also does pub quizzes and trains in a martial art and does a fucking podcast. Like, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Keeping up, and you do a lot of that for the both of us. But just keeping up and knowing what's going on is like an effort.
But even more now, like what helps with that is like back in the day when I first started reading, I would just read anything and everything I could get my hands on. Yeah. Like if I liked the character, I would read whatever came out of theirs, right? Yeah. That's why. And nowadays I'm like, I will drop something very quickly. If it's not, because before it was like just my money. Like I would spend my money on something, like, and I liked it or I didn't, and I still liked having a physical thing, even if I didn't enjoy the story. Nowadays, I'm like, are you actually providing me with a good experience for the time I'm taking to read you?
Are you not entertained?
Yeah, and if I'm not, drop it, stop. You know,
there's this thing that Quentin Blake did, which is rights for readers, and one of them is the right to finish a book you're not enjoying. And I think that's so important. It's just like you get
right
halfway
to finish or right to stop?
Right to not finish.
Yes.
The right to not finish a book you're not enjoying.
Yeah, of course.
Like if you're not enjoying it, stop reading it.
Yeah. And I think when your time becomes more valuable, and again, like looking at what's actually coming out from the big two and what's actually servicing me, like I am actually enjoying my time reading, like, what's it most recently? Absolute Martian Manhunter and Absolute Wonder Woman. Like, those issues just came out the other day, and I was like, this is really good stuff, and I'm actually into it.
The book I read today was The Color Monster.
Is that Marvel or DC? It does sound a little bit like...
I read a lot of what are called board books at the moment.
To be fair, there's, I mean, for years later, but there is like Marvel DC stuff that's like geared towards like very younger children, and
100%. Like,
got to indoctrinate them early.
Yeah, like when he's a kid, he will get some Teen Titans
will like
stuff.
the stuff I like.
No, but yeah, I mean, do you know what's really interesting? There have been times that I've been reading a kid's book, like a really little kid's book. Like the Color Monster is all about feelings, right? And my partner and I were kind of sat reading it to him earlier on today. And the artwork was fucking sick, Ryan. The artwork was so good. And I was like, I wish we could talk about this on the podcast, but Ryan obviously doesn't. Like, our
Not
audience,
on the main channel, but, you know, if someone gets around to starting the Patreon, then...
Yeah, I need to do that work. I need to do that labor.
Then your reward is we can do the Color Monster as our first episode.
Do you know, I keep saying to my partner, because we want to do it. We talked about a brand refresh months ago, and we've just not done it because I've not made the assets. And I keep saying to her, oh, tomorrow, can I take some time out to record the music that I need to record for the podcast? And she's like, Jamie, you ask me every day, and every day I say yes. And every day you find something else to do.
Next up on Living with an ADHD-riddled human.
Yeah, fucking hell, man. Right, well, I need to go home.
I was going to say, on that note, we've gone long, possibly related to that last thing I just said.
Yeah.
So, thank you once again for listening. And if you found this informative in your trying to read Iron Man comics, thank us by leaving a 5-star review wherever you can.
Yeah, 5-star review, leave us a comment. If this actually reached at least one person who was our desired audience, can you let us know?
Yes, especially if you're someone who's like, I haven't read any, you could be existing comic book reader, but if you're like, I like Iron Man, I haven't read a proper Iron Man comic, I decided to read this one based on your episode.
I decided not to.
Yeah.
But if it actually reached the person it was intended for, let us know what the outcome was. We are desperate to hear from you.
Yes, please. comiclyra@gmail.com, I think. I might have got
or just comment.
There's a recording of me that will give you the correct email address in a few seconds anyway.
Comment now.
Here it is. And thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, then please subscribe to get notified of our future episodes as well. And if you're feeling particularly generous, then please leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast app you're using. If you'd like to get in contact with us, then send an email to comiclyra@gmail.com. You can also watch videos by me on the Comic Stand YouTube page, which is linked in the description. Thank you, goodbye.